Okay, this is my family. Okay, so some of the happiest moments of my life have had to do with an art form in one way or another. Maybe you can relate because you went to see Hamilton with your family over the summer and it was a great experience, or you saw a music festival with your best friend, or possibly you can just recall that memory of being a kid again and doing arts and crafts. Well, art has that effect on people. It brings joy and it makes you feel engaged and expressive and like you can feel fulfilled with what you're doing. And that's even more so for children. As a studying photographer now and a artist kind of my whole life, I feel like there's nothing more important to me than arts education for the youth nowadays. But we've ran into a hiccup because President Trump wants to eliminate funding for arts and humanities. Because of this, it's going to make it increasingly difficult for kids to find diverse classes to take. Maybe the band class they've been in for years, the funding's going to get cut, and it's going to be sad. And so the point of this speech is to inform you why it's so important to have these art classes and what we can do to help communities in the case that it does get cut. Very often, people feel that these art classes are kind of like filler classes. You know, it's an easy class to take and you'll get a good grade. You don't have to try hard. But in reality, it's not just learning a new art technique. It's learning developmental and life skills for your whole life. It's things that you'll carry with you and can make you into a really well-rounded individual. Doing research on this topic, one of my favorite sources is artsedsearch.org. On this website, you can find so many different reports and studies done by professionals, and you just read through the titles and you can see that there's this correlation between the intellect that we want students to have and art classes, which is kind of insane because I would have never assumed that some of these things would have such a strong relation to each other. So I found 3 studies that I really, really liked and I thought were a good example of this intellect. The first one is about an economically disadvantaged school. They had additional art programs given to them for this study, and so once these additional programs were set into place, the students were reportedly more happy and found that they had a safer space in school to express themselves. And they also became more self-efficient for their work, and also that they took responsibility for their schoolwork outside of just the art classes as well. The art teachers and the regular teachers also found that they were able to relate and communicate with their students better, which only gave them an easier chance of teaching these classes better at the end of the day. Another study comes from England on secondary schools. The schools here already had flourishing art programs, but they obviously checked in to see what the effects on the students were. The students felt like they had an heightened enjoyment during their day, fulfillment, and stress relief. This was fantastic too, was that they had increased knowledge of social and cultural issues, development of creativity and thinking skills, and they bettered their communication, again, with their peers, their teachers, themselves. And my favorite part from the whole study was that every different art class that students were able to take, they got something different from it, which was amazing. I had it on my PowerPoint here. You can see that different things come with different skill sets, which was really cool. And then the third study was done on a bunch of students, 175,000 of them to be exact, from their first day of high school onto the next 5 years. And it was about high school dropouts and the relationship with art programs. The students that took art programs, they had a very, very low risk of dropping out of school. The lowest risk was those who fully engaged with an art class or an art program. Maybe they were in band for all the years, or they were a theater geek, so they did it for all those years. And then those who never took the one minimum course, they had the highest risk of dropping out. And then once you took that one course, it went down, and it went down with 2 courses. And it makes me think that if we know that there's a key to success here for students to have lower risk of dropping out, to have less stressful days, to gain different skills, I don't know why we would think about denying them this key to success. But if it does happen, we have to consider what we're going to do about it. Communities can look towards public and private funding to help them flip the bill for these art classes. You can also look at nonprofits for help, such as the Eugene Education Foundation, which allocates 30% of its grants to art education every year. They also offer artist residencies, which is where a very well-established artist will come in and teach for 3 months or a semester or a year. And the students get this jam-packed education from a really great artist, and the artist gets to say that they taught for a whole year without having to go through school for education. It goes great for both student and artist. Parents sometimes also look at charter schools because they have that well-rounded education already in place. Or you just kind of have to hope that you're living in the right place, such as California. California is in the progress of bringing art back into public schools, which is just as simple as it has to be. Their program is called CREATE, which stands for California Core, Reform Engaging Arts to Educate. A whole mouthful, but they're doing a lot for their state. And like I said, it's as easy as just trying to get that art back into school for students. All those facts are from lawstreetmedia.com/issues. And we also have to consider, if this funding gets cut, not only how does the community help with it, but also how does it affect students? As someone who's living in an ever-changing and progressive world, I want nothing more than for my generation and future generations to overcome some of the issues we have. We have sexism, racism, pay inequality. There are plagues, there is poverty, there's sustainability that we need to figure out, and so much more. And I don't know how we assume that any adult or any growing youth can become this visionary person that can help change the world if we don't give them a well-rounded education. I think defunding this will only spawn less innovative children. It will make them more hostile towards diversity because they never experienced it in a classroom setting. And also less in touch with themselves and their culture, which ultimately can just lead to maybe some inner feelings of confusion and angst. And I don't think that'll help in the least. We also have to consider that it's a growing industry, the arts and the culture. There's 4.8 million people in the United States working in that industry every year, and $730 billion of that go to our GDP. It's included in there. And so it's a really big industry, a lot bigger than it was travel, tourism, all of that is smaller than arts and culture. And so we have to make sure that we have artists to fill these job positions, because with social media and digitalization of the modern day, we need people to be creating things more than ever. It's a massive market. And all I can say really is just to inspire you to bring it into your mind how this will affect you personally. Maybe you're not in school anymore, but maybe your kids are, or your siblings or your cousins. And so do your research and figure out, how is it going to affect you personally? And once you figure that out, go sign a petition, call your representative, or better yet, go meet him in person and speak your voice. Maybe engage in a cultural institution that's holding an event and figure out for yourself, have a special reason why it's so important. And also vote, because that does a great job. Because the people who are making these policies and reforming our stuff, we want it to be reforming it the right way. And so just working your life to create this place for children, for the youth, for, again, your cousins, your siblings. It's a happy place for them to learn. It's a place for teachers to inspire kids and teach them something that's truly important. It's a place for parents to get engaged and support their kids, and a place for anyone to have passion for life. Thank you. And you can just turn it off.